So Ohio State has been on a heater. Currently the number one class in all of 2025. They have 11 commitments. They had a massive weekend. 4 commits in 3 days. Guys like TJ Alford, 4-star linebacker, London Merritt, a 4-star edge, Desi Jones, the 4-star wide receiver with his teammate, 4-star corner Deshaun Stewart. They went to work. And then on top of that, they landed, I believe it was either this morning or last night. I'm not sure when it became official, but bottom line is they got a new running back coach, Carlos Locklyn from Oregon. Big time get for them, in my opinion. I don't think you leave a place like Oregon unless you feel really good about the direction of your next destination, which is, of course, Ohio State for Carlos Locklyn. This was massive for them. So I want us to unpack the Carlos Locklyn hire, and then I want us to unpack on a macro level what Ryan Day is doing right now at Ohio State. To start with Carlos Locklyn, like I just said, you don't leave Oregon, in my opinion, which is a school in the Big Ten, for a job within the same conference if you don't feel good about the direction in Columbus, if you don't feel good about the way that Ryan Day has that thing trending. And some folks will say, well, it's Ohio State, it's the brand. That might have been true, I think, 5 years ago with Ohio State being this massively superior brand to Oregon. But Oregon, if I'm buying stock in a program, like I'm thinking twice about what Dan Lanning is doing there. I don't think that was an easy decision just to leave Eugene and leave what they've got cooking out there. Carlos Locklyn, as a recruiter, I think he is going to be even better at Ohio State than he was at Oregon because of the trend that they're on right now, because of the on-field success that I think they're going to have. Also, just the fact that you don't have to take a plane flight to see some of the top recruits in the country if you're Carlos Locklyn. You love Eugene, Oregon. You love the state of Oregon. But most of the top talent that you're recruiting, if you're on that staff at Oregon, is not within a 100-mile radius. You can't take a car and go see your top target. At Ohio State, you have more accessibility to some of this talent. Also worth noting, he was a good recruiter at Oregon. Landed 2 top 100 tailbacks, was involved in a number of other high-profile recruits that Oregon ended up landing. I love the way he communicates with his guys. And I'm only speaking from as Dan Lanning would say, the window view of what we got to see from how he operates at Oregon. There's a great mic'd up segment they have on the Oregon socials I would go check out if I was an Ohio State fan. He operates from a place of, I want what's best for you as a player. And some people will be quick to say, well, he's just doing that because it's on the segment where he knows he's mic'd up during practice, or I didn't get that vibe. I got the sense when watching that clip of Carlos Locklyn communicate with his running backs at Oregon, he wants them to be the best version of themselves, and he knows the best version of themselves is going to take different communication for different guys. Like there's a segment in that short snippet we saw on social media. Running back at Oregon doesn't do something right. Carlos Locklyn says, I need my up downs. Does his up downs. Carlos Locklyn then goes and talks to him and says, it's not punishment, it's positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is what he's trying to, I think, send the messaging to his guys as a running back coach, period. So maybe we're extrapolating a little too much from a 1-minute view into Carlos Locklyn as a coach, but again, what he's done as a recruiter and the way that he's going to impact at Ohio State, I think, is going to be massive. So that's the Carlos Locklyn hire. Now, on a macro level, we talked about it on a one-off video yesterday on the On3 YouTube channel. So being subscribed to be ahead of these live shows, I think, would be something I'd recommend to this channel. Keep on being told from different people across college football how college football is a talent acquisition game. You got to have the Jimmies and the Joes. You can have good coaches. That's part of it, sure. And by the way, they added really good coaches in Chip Kelly and Carlos Locklyn. You got to have the right guys on your roster to win ball games. And then Ryan Day continues to knock it out of the park. By nature of them landing 4 commitments in the last 3 days, having the top class in 2025, and this is not really a new thing for them. I think over the last 6 months, I would have a tough time saying that someone has been a better talent adder than Ryan Day and his staff. Will Howard from Kansas State, proven commodity, upgrade at quarterback. Keep your Kyle McCord comps to yourself. Quinshon Judkins, proven commodity in the SEC. He's going to be a dog for them. Pair him with Travion Henderson, fresh legs all day. Caleb Downs, the top player in the portal. I myself was saying, hey, I think it's Georgia. He's from Georgia. I know Georgia was in the mix there at the end for him when it came to National Signing Day at the high school level. He ends up going to Ohio State. And then they got the number 1 player in the entire class of 2024, held on to the top player in 2024, and Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver out of the state of Florida. And then they landed Julian Sayin, the top quarterback, or one of the top quarterbacks, rather, in the class of 2024, just because they could when Nick Saban ended up retiring. Obviously, that was kind of a field day for the transfer portal, and Julian Sayin transferred from Alabama to Ohio State. So the bottom line here is Ryan Day is on a heater. This staff is on a heater. Ohio State continuing to add top talent. And there's going to be a lot of folks that say, well, they've always had top talent. I think a degree of that is true. But I would also say in the era that we're in right now in college football, Ohio State has not always been able to go and add your top talent to their roster. Your top player jumps in the portal and they say, hey, you want to go play at Ohio State? And they say, okay, yeah, for sure. I want to wear that Buckeye helmet. That's new to the game. And I tell you what, the way that Ohio State has won the portal as of late over the last 6 months, I don't think that's going to be a thing that just bubbles up right now and then somehow they're not a player in future recruitments. I think Ohio State's going to be a force adding talent in the portal now as well. However you slice it, they're playing ball. They're playing ball. Whether you want to call it an NIL operation, whether you want to call it the staff being aggressive, they are playing ball in what it takes to add top talent in modern college football. And it hasn't always been that way at Ohio State when it comes to the portal, when it comes to the NIL landscape. Hasn't always been that way. It is now. And I said this yesterday, I'm going to say it again. If this is the new Ohio State in terms of adding talent, if they're going to press the envelope every single offseason and go and add top players in the portal and go and add top talent at the high school level, they are going to win a national championship. I didn't say if they win a national championship, when they win a national championship under Ryan Day. And the next thing you're going to hear now after folks hear that statement of Ryan Day is not going to a national championship. He almost did it against Georgia in that college football playoff semifinal, almost had a field goal go through the uprights as the clock struck midnight, and then they would have been the team that put TCU in a body bag. They would have been that team that beat TCU by 40 or 50 points. No disrespect to TCU, but I think we can all understand how that game was going to go if it was Ohio State or if it was Georgia. It is very clear now that Ohio State is evolving. They're evolving. Like, say what you want about the past. We're not living in the past. Ryan Day is still a first-time head coach. He's had some years under his belt now, but to assume that he's just going to stay stagnant as a head coach in the way that Ohio State plays football, you're not paying attention. Because Ohio State, a couple of years ago, had a tough time playing defense. I mean, I think we all saw when Mario Cristobal and I think it was C.J. Verdell playing running back for Oregon that day. And they pretty much just ran up and down the chute. I think C.J. Stroud was a redshirt freshman at that point in time. Oregon did whatever they wanted. Ryan Day says, we got to make changes, goes and hires Jim Knowles. Ohio State had a top 10 defense last year, probably going to have a top 10 defense yet again this year because they bring everybody back, and they add in Caleb Downs. They're continuing to evolve. And then folks will be very quick to say, well, what about Michigan? Hey, 0-3 the last couple of years against Michigan. There's no excuse for that. I'm not here to defend them going 0-3 against Michigan. That's bad. That's not the standard at Ohio State. But is it more likely that Ohio State is just soft, not tough enough, not good enough to win a national championship, even though they were on the doorstep of doing that 2 years ago? Or is it more likely that maybe Michigan had 20-plus NFL dudes, a Joe Moore Award caliber offensive line the last couple of years? They won the Joe Moore Award 2 years ago, and just kind of was able to have a better outfit on that day against Ohio State. It is what it is. Again, I'm not defending Ohio State losing to Michigan, but I just think the context within this whole conversation has to be evaluated a little bit more closely. All right? I understand now that the folks at Ohio State are not thrilled with the way that things have gone the last couple of years. You still have a head coach that's won 87% of his games. Okay? He's still one of the best in the business. Hasn't gotten over the hump in beating Michigan the last 3 years. They haven't won the national title, won the Big Ten the last couple of years. I understand that. That's frustrating. But look around, man. These are still first world problems. And Ryan Day is still on the climb to get Ohio State to where he expects them to be. So say what you want. Ohio State acquiring top talent at a staff level on the recruiting trail. I think that story is far from finished in Columbus. And I think Ohio State and Ryan Day as a head coach is far from a finished product as well. Got to make sure y'all know that the Hard Count is brought to y'all today by Prime Video. Listen, we understand March Madness is rolling. We got Final Four action here, I think in just a matter of days. You need to sneak in those games while you're watching at work, while you're watching at home, wherever you're watching. Prime Video has got you covered. So watch every game live on your phone, on your laptop, or relax and watch at home on Prime Video with a subscription. Prime Video gives you choices to add on channels like Paramount Plus and Max, both featuring March Madness tournament games, all in one place. It's March, it's Madness. Stream it all on Prime Video. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.